The Avengers radio series, a cultural phenomenon in South Africa back in the 1970s. South Africa was a country with no national television service. It wasn't until 1976 that the country would get its first taste of television broadcasts. But before that, radio was the primary medium of entertainment and information for the masses. This was the context when The Avengers, a British spy FI series, made its debut on South African radio and became a cultural phenomenon. The Avengers was a British television series that originally aired from 1961 to 1969. The show revolved around the adventures of John Steed, a suave and sophisticated secret agent, and his various female associates. The series was a unique blend of traditional spy thriller elements with science fiction and fantasy, which set it apart from other shows of its time. While the series was hugely popular in the UK and had also made a significant impact in the American markets, being one of the rare British series given a network transmission slot, it was virtually unknown in South Africa. This was primarily due to the lack of a national television service in the country until 1976. However, as a film series, The Avengers was able to gain some exposure in South Africa through film rentals. But it was the launch of the radio series that truly brought The Avengers to the masses in South Africa. Come and listen at www.myclassicradio.net.
Bob and Ray Public Radio Program. Thank you. I want to introduce an old and dear friend of ours who called our office this afternoon and said he had an important announcement to make, and could he have a few seconds on this show today. Webley Webster, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Bob.
Web.
It's, I wanted to come by and make the announcement that I'm going to have an evening with Webley Webster.
We got a lot of people ask us about that.
Hit the microphone, I'm sorry.
It's all right. We got a lot of people ask if you were going to repeat that great success you had.
No, it's not going to be a repeat. It's going to be a brand new program.
Oh, it is.
We'll have poetic recitations, and I'll play the organ much like Mr. Free.
Really?
Only it's a pipe organ.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use one of those things.
What's the matter with that?
Well, they're small. They sound tinny. I like a big pipe organ.
All right. And where are you going to open? Where's the opening for
William, New Hampshire will be my first concert. They have a lovely theater there.
You played there before?
Yeah. I have a built-in acceptance in Fitzwilliam. I'd like to go back there.
Good place to start, and we want to wish you a lot of luck.
Well, thank you, Ray. You always know it's a pleasure for me to come by and talk to you, Polly.
I'm Bob.
Oh, right.
Let us know how it turns out. We also want to tell you that our sponsors are again with us tonight. The Einbinder folks, the greatest name in fly paper.
And by Monongahela, the metal foundry that casts ingots with the housewife in mind.
And now Mushies, the great news cereal that gets soggy even without milk or cream, brings you another exciting story of adventure starring Tippy the Wonder Dog. As we look in on the isolated cabin of Grandpa Witherspoon today, we find that a herd of cattle has broken out of a nearby corral and is stampeding through the valley. Gramps has crawled underneath his cot in a desperate effort to escape the approaching stampede, as little Jasper stands in the front window, gazing out at the quiet lull before the storm. Suddenly, the boy turns and speaks.
No cows out there now, Gramps. Do you think maybe it's just a quiet lull before the storm?
Yeah, concern it all, you bet your boots. It's just the quiet lull before the storm. That's why I sent that fool dog of yours out for some barbed wire to string around our property before the stampede gets here. Those critters aren't cows like you seem to think, boy. They're full-grown steers.
Okay, sorry for the incorrect terminology, Gramps. But aside from that, you don't need to worry about a thing. Tippy will be here with your barbed wire momentarily. Why, he's the dependablest, the smartest dog in the whole wide world.
Well, concern it all, where is he then? I sent him to the store early Saturday morning.
Well, there are a lot of different kinds of barbed wire to choose from. It always takes Tippy a while to select his purchase when it involves comparison shopping. I'm sure he'll be along soon. Tippy's the finest, the smart... Oh, hey!
Huh?
I think I see him out there now, Grams. Headed home lickety-split to save us from getting trampled. Here, Tippy, Tippy, Tippy.
Consarn it all. Give me that barbed wire quick. I can hear those cattle stampeding right outside the door.
Oh, I think it was just your vivid imagination, Gramps. I didn't hear anything. Besides, that wasn't Tippy out there after all. It was just that Airedale of the Pagets. He was headed home with a case of electric cattle prods. Batteries included.
Consarn it all. Every other dog in the neighborhood is helping his master get ready for the stampede, but that fool Tippy probably just got a safe distance away and crawled up to take a nap.
Oh, Gramps, you always turn your venom on Tippy when you get scared of being crushed by cattle. But he won't let you down. He's the dandiest, the smartest. Oh, wait.
Huh?
I see him out there now. Here, Tippy, Tippy. Come on, boy.
Consarn it all, where's my barbed wire? Those critters sounded like they were ready to come right through the door.
I didn't hear a thing. In addition to which, I might add, that wasn't Tippy out there. It was just that puppy that hangs around the Robinson place. He was headed up that way with a carton of Halloween noisemakers. I guess they used to scare the cattle away, you know.
Consarn it all, that pup's no bigger than a minute. But he can still be sent out on errands. I'd never trusted that fool Tippy.
Oh, gee, Gramps, I don't know why you always lash out at Tippy as a means of releasing your pent-up anxiety. He's the peachiest, the smartest. Oh, hey, wait. I see him out there for sure now, loping up the path to save us again. Come on in, Tippy. That's my good old boy. That's a boy. I think I'm beginning to hear cows. I hear cows out there now, too, Gramps.
I keep telling you they're not cows, they're steers, but never mind that. Give me the barbed wire. Maybe I can still string it around the porch to keep us safe.
Sorry, Gramps. It looks as if the only item Tippy picked up at the store was this baseball bat and an outdoor barbecue.
Consarn it all, I'm going to make that fool dog wish he'd never been born.
No, wait, Gramps. Don't you see the clever thing Tippy has done on our behalf? He's figuring how we can profit from the cattle stampede by hitting one of those cows over the head with a baseball bat and then cooking the steaks on this outdoor barbecue. See? Oh, boy, didn't I tell you, Gramps? That Tippy's the brilliantest, the smartest dog in the whole wide world?
Today's thrilling story has been brought to you by Mushy's, the great new cereal that gets soggy even without milk or cream. Join us soon for more spectacular adventure starring Tippy the Wonder Dog.
Well, again today, our scouts have been searching the railroad and bus stations around New York for victims of misfortune. And it appears that we've come up with an unusually fine assortment of born losers. So, Bob, why don't you begin the entertainment with that pathetic figure there beside you?
All right. Good idea, Ray. This is Mr. Hobie Decker of Lebanon, Missouri, and according to your card, Mr. Decker, you spent your life savings on a trip to New York in the hope of furthering your professional career.
Well, that's right, Bob Ray. See, I've been selling porch swings back in Lebanon, Missouri for almost 30 years.
Uh-huh.
But there isn't much market for them around there anymore. Most people in Lebanon have air conditioning now. And they don't need porch swings for sitting outside on hot summer nights. So I thought it was time to move my business to New York.
Well, that might be a logical decision, except that very few people in New York have front porches, but I suppose you didn't know that when you came here.
I knew it. I'd been in New York for the World's Fair back in 1939.
Uh-huh.
And then again, I was here for the basketball scandal in 1950. But I wasn't counting on selling my porch swings here for use on porches. I thought people could hang them from the ceilings of their apartments. You know, I'd read that utility rates are very high in New York, so not so many people have air conditioning as in the Midwest. That should be good for the porch swing business.
Well, I suppose it should be, but I gather that there hasn't been much demand for porch swings in New York as you expected.
Well, that's right. You see, what I hadn't taken into account was the fact that the porch swing needs a lot of open space around it.
Sure.
So you can swing, you know, with banging into something. You just don't find many apartments here where you can hang a porch swing in the middle of the living room and not worry about knocking over furniture or bric-a-brac when you swing on it.
Yeah, well, there might even be a tendency to swing into a wall if the room is small.
Well, that's correct. And banging into an apartment wall with a big, heavy-duty porch swing can really chip the plaster pretty bad. So even my free demonstrations cost me money because of all the repairs I have to pay for.
Well, your story is indeed one of heartbreak, sir, but to help you back on your feet, here's a lovely gift from our generous Bob and Ray organization, a fine loose-leaf stamp album with pages in there that'll accommodate a full set of Brazilian airmail stamps.
Well, I don't have any Brazilian airmail stamps or any other kind.
Well, don't try to thank me, sir. It's the least we could do. Now, our next Hard Luck story is from Mrs. Effie Walsh of Tampa, Florida, who's become stranded in New York while on a mission of mercy for her little boy.
Well, yes. Well, I made it clear from Tampa to the North Pole, then back this far, but now my money's given out, and Merton Jr. and I are stuck here.
Well, tell us about the mission of mercy that involved taking your son to the North Pole. Did he have to see Santa Claus during the off-season about a personal matter?
No, nothing so frivolous as that. Merton Jr. was home from school with the sniffles. During the whole week, his third-grade class was studying about the Eskimos.
Uh-huh.
And he was afraid he'd flunk the final exam unless he could make up what he'd missed by going to northern Alaska and observing Eskimo culture firsthand.
Well, I don't think they have final exams in third grade, but your desire to have the boy get an education is commendable anyway. Were you able to visit some Eskimo villages, Ms. Walsh?
Yes, but nobody was home. We heard the natives were all out working repairing the Alaska pipeline and making money enough to live in condominiums. So I'm afraid Merton Jr.'s teacher will never believe that there are no igloos left.
No, she'll probably flunk him because she thinks he's lying about that.
Yes.
But to ease your heartbreak, our generous Bob and Ray organization wants you to have this fine electronic calculator that figures square roots and logarithms.
Well, anybody who flunks Eskimos certainly doesn't know beans about square roots and logarithms.
That's true. Use it in good health, Ms. Walsh. And finally, here's Mr. Wendell Carpus of San Jose, California. Hello, Mr. Carpus.
Well, I spent all my money buying an old surplus Hoboken ferry boat.
Uh-huh.
And now I can't afford to sail it back to California by way of the Panama Canal.
That is indeed unfortunate, but what do you expect us to do about it?
Well, I don't know anything you can. I've seen what wonderful things you've done for other poor unfortunates here today.
Well, that's true, and we never like to send a pathetic figure like you away empty-handed. So here is this lovely ballpoint pen, handsomely inscribed with the name of one of the largest banks in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Enjoy it.
Gee, I got to make a 6,000-mile voyage in a ferry boat, and this is the best you can do for me?
Yes, and we were delighted to be of assistance in your hour of need. Now, back over to Ray at our main anchor desk. Ray?
Hey, I've got a tip for budget-minded housewives from the makers of Vine Binder flypaper. Ladies, we know how the recession has forced you to stop buying many luxury items you once provided for your family. But don't make the common mistake of eliminating flypaper from your shopping list. In the long run, you can only lose money by letting insects eat your pastry goods before you can feed them to your family. So look upon flypaper as what it really is. Your insurance against further economic loss. And be sure to ask for genuine Einbinder, the flypaper you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations.
Now, another chapter in the endless story of intrigue unfolding among the socially prominent families of Gary Summit. There, in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As this week's action begins, Agatha is gazing out the parlor window at the first snowfall of the season. Suddenly, she turns to her weak, spineless son, Rodney, and speaks.
Is today the 23rd or 24th of October, Rodney?
I'm delighted you asked, Mother. I've been wanting to show you this 3-function ballpoint pen I bought in the village today. See, it shows the date in this little window on the side. Then when you push the button, it becomes a calculator that gives you the square root of 15 and other things like that.
I don't give 2 hoops about the square root of 15. I just want to know whether this is the 23rd or 24th of October.
Now, the number in the little window says it's the 24th. Why do you ask?
Well, I was just looking at the snow out there, and I got to thinking about your fiancée, Pamela, who was thrown from her horse up on the mountain. You know, the forest rangers say they can't bring her down until the ice melts next spring.
Yes, but don't worry, Mother. I can find a lot of ways to occupy my time until Pamela gets back. They have those computer dating services now, you know.
Well, it's not your shortage of social activities that concerns me, Rodney. I wasn't even in favor of your wild fling with Pamela. After all, you do have a wife and 3 children.
Oh. Yes, Jennifer and the triplets. I hope they're all still well and happy over in the other wing of the mansion here.
Well, I don't want to alarm you, Rodney, but I haven't seen any of them in weeks. I just hope your neglect hasn't driven them to some desperate act they'll be sorry for. I often wonder where they are.
Here you go, barkeep. Make it another double.
I think you've had enough, pal. Besides, you don't look like you're over 21 to me.
No, I'm not quite 9. But I have to drink to forget. You know how it feels to be from a set of triplets who were neglected by their father because he was running around with his secretary and she got thrown from her horse up on Old Baldy and nothing could be done about it until the snow melts except to lower hot soup down to her by helicopter?
No, I don't know how that feels. You see, I'm just one of twins myself.
If that's for me... If that's for me, tell him I left an hour ago.
Hello. Royal Palm Bar and Pool Hall. No, I haven't seen a little kid with beady eyes. Is there a message for him if he comes in? Okay. If you're sure you can stand the shock of hearing about that, I'll tell him I got a call from his bummy's brand new husband.
The bartender says the kid's not there, Jennifer. We'll have to leave on our honeymoon without him.
Oh, my. I hate to do that, Slick. You said we'll be going to Brazil. I assume that means you plan to stay several days.
Wow. Longer than that, kiddo. Remember when you gave me the combination to your first husband's office safe?
Yes, I hoped you might find some of Rodney's papers in there that you could mess up to help me get revenge for all these years of neglect. Rodney hates to have his papers messed up.
Well, I found more than just papers in his safe, Jennifer. Here, look in this duffel bag.
My stars. $148 million, all in small, unmarked bills.
I figure it's money that Rodney pilfered from his mother's company over the years, a few dollars at a time, and now it's ours. So you can see why our honeymoon will be lasting for quite a while.
Yes, in fact, I can see a lot of things I never saw before, Slick. You've stolen Rodney's petty cash. And now you're running away to Brazil because you know you can't be extradited from there for grand larceny.
No, I wasn't thinking of myself, Jennifer. After all, you're the one who committed bigamy when you forgot to divorce Rodney before you married me. So now you'll have to spend the rest of your life in Brazil if you don't want to go to the slammer for a long, long time.
Well, will Pamela consider it another stroke of bad luck when she's carried down from the mountain to find that her fiancé has been robbed of $148 million? Can Jennifer hope to find happiness with a thief instead of the triplets? And what about the bartender at the Royal Palm Bar and Pool Hall? Perhaps we'll learn more next week, when we hear the airline pilot say,
Rio de Janeiro is completely socked in. I'm going to have to land on the front lawn of the police station in Philadelphia.
Well, that's next week, when we resume our story of endless intrigue on Gary's Summit. And now, here's a word of vital importance from the Monongahela Metal Foundry. The annual trade-in sale is now on at your local Monongahela showroom. So if you've been wanting to replace your old dull steel ingots with new, shiny, extra shiny models, the time to act is now.
Your Monongahela representative is paying top dollar in trade for any old ingot, regardless of how corroded or banged up it is. You may never get another chance like this to put new, extra shiny ingots in every room of your home, using those old unsightly ingots to cover most of your down payment. So rush to your Monongahela showroom now while there's still time to wheel and deal.
Now the United States Mint, one of the nation's leading producers of fine new money,
presents another dramatic story from the files of the emergency ward.
Greetings and welcome. I am Dr. Gerhard Snutton, handsome young physician who has not yet established a practice of his own. Instead, I work in the emergency ward of a big city hospital, a place where the saga of human misery unfolds 24 hours a day. Take the other evening, for example. I was utilizing a spare moment to engage in some medical research when my associate nurse, Roothouse, turned to me and said,
Why are you standing on top of the desk, waving that fly swatter around, Doctor?
I'm proving a long-held scientific theory of mine is correct, Nurse Roothouse. The mere sight of a fly swatter is enough to scare flies away. That means they have enough mentality to learn what can hurt them.
Well, I don't see how you can prove a thing like that in a hospital, Doctor. We're careful not to let flies in here.
Well, that's just what I finished telling you, Nurse Roothouse. There aren't any flies in here, and that's because they all saw me standing on this desk, waving my fly swatter around.
Pardon me. Is this the emergency ward of a big city hospital?
Yes, and I'm Dr. Gerhard Snutton, handsome young physician who has not yet established a practice of his own. I might also mention that the salad fork you have sticking out your ear just scraped against our woodwork as you came through the doorway.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I try not to damage your paint, but this all ties in with my medical emergency. You see, my wife tried out a new recipe on me tonight, and I didn't like it. So she got mad and she stuck this salad fork in my ear.
Well, I'll have to prepare you for x-rays. It could be a punctured eardrum.
No, I think it was tomato aspic with a little piece of pineapple in it. But you don't have to take x-rays, Doc. I didn't swallow any of it.
I mean x-rays of your ear to see if there's been damage, Dumbbell.
Well, Doctor, I don't think his eardrum could be punctured. He seems to hear you all right.
That's because I'm a physician, and he knows he'd better pay attention when I'm speaking to him, Nurse Roothouse.
Well, I don't see how that could enter into it.
I don't expect you to understand technical relationships like that. After all, you never spent a day of your life in medical school.
Well, look, it should be. If you people are planning to have a fight, I think I'll go get a drink of water.
All right. Just don't get any water in your ear. That could spoil the x-ray pictures.
Okay, I'll be careful. I'll be gone in a minute, too. Sorry.
Clumsy oaf. Now, Nurse Roothouse, I want you to call the x-ray department and make a reservation with the photographer on duty.
Well, I think they call them x-ray technicians, Doctor, not photographers.
Well, whoever they are. I prefer that young lady on duty this evening.
Hey, Doc, look. When I bent over the water fountain here, I must have tilted my head to one side and the salad fork fell out.
Well, that's only a natural reaction that you shouldn't be alarmed about. It's the law of gravity. I studied it in medical school.
Gee, it's really nice to have an educated man like you around to explain things when they happen. But anyway, I seem to be cured, so what do I owe you, Doc?
Well, the x-rays would have been around $75, but since we never took those, I guess $1.50 should take care of everything.
That's about right, considering how serious my condition might have been. So here you are, and, well, thanks for everything. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Well, Nurse Roothouse, you've just seen another hopeless victim walk out of here in radiant good health, thanks to the wonders of medical science. So just make a brief notation in your case book, patient released, cured.
Join us again soon when the United States Mint, one of the nation's leading producers of money, will bring you another dramatic story from the files of the emergency ward.
And that's it for now. The Bob and Ray Public Radio program, developed and produced for the Radio Foundation by Larry Josephson, who prides himself on knowing an oxymoron when he sees one.
Associate producer, Marjorie Van Halteren, who's running for the dictionary right now.
Stan Free provided the music, and audio engineer was Joe Lopes.
And some of our contestants were interviewed beforehand. Funding in part from the National Endowment for the Arts.
And the New York State Council on the Arts.
Now, this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
Simply coast to coast
It's the Bob and Ray Public Radio Show.
Thank you very much, and welcome again.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, but Sergeant Ben Royster is here.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Ben Royster, and this is your Army Amateur Hour. Today, coming to you from Fort Armbruster, Ohio, the home of the fighting 379th Horse-Drawn Infantry Battalion. Here on stage with me is our first contestant from Fort Armbruster, and he's going to compete for the coveted Drill Talent Award. He's Corporal Edgar Balch. Welcome to the show, Corporal.
Thank you, Sergeant. And I'd just like to send a verbal greeting to all my buddies out there in the 46th Hay Baling Unit of the Fighting 379th Horse-Drawn Infantry Brigade.
Okay. Obviously, got a lot of friends pulling for you today, Corporal. I notice you're now letting a lot of white mice out of the cages on top of the piano. Does that tie in somehow with the talent you're planning to display for us?
Yes, it does, Sergeant. I have 88 trained mice here. And, of course, that figures out one for each piano key. So as soon as they all get in position, I'll demonstrate how I train them to jump up and down in place, thereby creating a piano melody.
Boy, this is going to be different.
Okay, you guys, let's fall in line. Count off there.
I see the mice are scampering around to find their places on the keyboard now. And while they're doing that, Corporal, suppose you tell us how they've been trained to jump up and down. Do they do it by voice command, or do you give the mice an electrical shock?
It's strictly it's voice command,
It
Sergeant. I'd never mistreat the little fellows, even though it's harder to train them using humane methods.
Well, that's admirable, sir.
Well, excuse me, Sergeant. I think they're all in place now. I better get started while I still have their undivided attention.
All right. By all means, go ahead. The stage is yours, Corporal Edgar Balch.
Okay, now, let's look alert, fellas. 1, 2, 3, and go. 6, 9, 12, 43. Pick up those feet, number 5. That's good. Remember your number, guys. That's good. You're a little slow there, 62. Jump higher, 14. Higher. That's little. That's good. There you got it, fellas. Keep it up. That's it. Great. Oh, that's great. Terrific.
That's wonderful. And a beautiful tune, Corporal. Really great job of animal training. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you in the district finals of our Drill Talent Award competition to be held in the Ale Bowl next February. And now our next contestant here on the Army Amateur Hour is Major Bertram Pudgeman. I suppose your friends call you Bert.
No, they call me Major Pudgeman. Of course, I don't have any really close friends.
I guess we don't have to go into your personal problems about making friends. Why don't you tell us about the talent you've chosen to display here today?
Well, I do impersonations of famous military commanders in history.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a number of them, became my heroes while I was up there at West Point.
Right.
And I've worked up a little act built around my impressions.
All right, well, that sounds like good, clean entertainment. So, stage is all yours, Major Bertram Pudgeman.
Well, first, here's my impression of a great favorite of mine, and I'm sure of yours, too, General Mark Clark. To the rear, Clark. To the right flank, Clark. Put, Clark. And that's all of him.
How about a nice round of applause for the Major's impression of General Mark Clark? Well, I guess the men aren't going to applaud. You might as well go ahead, Major, with your next...
All right. Well, here's everybody's favorite from World War I, General Blackjack Pershing. Hold it! Okay. At ease, men! That's all I do on Pershing.
I don't think this is going over too well, Major.
It'll be okay. I'll get my big finish here. All right. The hero of the Mexican War, General Winfield Scott.
Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's it. Thank you. I think you better duck out the back way before they tear you to pieces, Major.
I don't know what went wrong. My orderly loved it.
Yeah, well, there he goes.
Bye.
Our final contestant, Major Bertram Punchman, and this is Sergeant Ben Royster saying so long until next time when we'll be coming your way from the Exeter, New Hampshire Marine Base, home of the Battling 14. See you then. This is Biff Burns coming your way from the sports room for another look at the highlights and sidelights in the world of sports with our special guest, Barney Westerfield. Barney, I hear that our brand new professional team is about to burst forth on the local sports horizon under your tutelage.
Well, I hope it'll soon be bursting forth under my tutelage, Biff. You see, I'm now in the process of organizing the Inter-American Hide-and-Go-Seek League. And actually, we want to have a franchise here in New York.
Well, putting a team in the big town would really be a credit to your promotional skill, Barney, and I assume you're convinced that Hide-and-Go-Seek has enough spectator appeal to make the old cash register jingle in the box office.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt that it will jingle, Biff. You see, we're not talking about clumsy amateurs playing conventional hide-and-go-seek. The fans will have a chance to watch all the big-name pros in action. Hornbeck, Shanahan, Kazekian, even the immortal Croucher Mingus.
Oh.
Yeah, we signed him to a 6-figure contract.
Wow. Landing the Croucher is certainly a credit to your promotional skill. I assume you have a number of local people who want to operate the valuable New York franchise under your expert tutelage.
Well, of course, I'm offering my tutelage to all the teams around the league until they get on their feet, Biff. Not many local promoters are experienced in professional hide-and-go-seek. And when you're asking $2 million for a franchise, you got to offer the fellas something.
Well, it's truly a credit to your promotional skill to be able to sell franchises for $2 million apiece in these troubled times. How many teams have you lined up for the league so far?
Well, we've got 7 teams ready to go next season, but I've had to make a few concessions on that franchise fee to move into the cities that we want. As I recall, I got $50 cash for the franchise in Lincoln, Nebraska, and about $12 worth of groceries for the one up in Racine, Wisconsin. The others, they still owe me.
Well, lining up 7 teams for the Loop's inaugural campaign is really a credit to your promotional skill, Barney. And, of course, adding New York would give you 8 cities. But have you got a place for the local team to play?
No, but I'm dickering seriously for Shea Stadium. Of course, we'd have to schedule our games out there on weekday mornings when nobody else is using the place. Our biggest concern is that a baseball field is in a very good spot to play hide-and-go-seek.
Well, as a top sportscaster, I'm naturally familiar with the layout of Shea Stadium. I think it might be an ideal spot for your games with all those tunnels and closets and dressing rooms under the stands. Like
yeah, that would be true if the guys were just playing hide-and-go-seek for fun. But when you've got 40,000 cash customers in the park, you can't very well have all the action taking place in the tunnels under the stands.
Yeah, well, that's true.
See, the players are supposed to hunt for each other, but we don't want the spectators to have to hunt for them, too.
Well, it's a real tribute to your promotional skill. You've already thought of that problem, Barney, but what do you think can be done about it?
Well, my idea is to plant a lot of big trees all over the field at Shea Stadium. And then we could also add some old sheds and other things like that to make good hiding places, you know. But the management of the Mets is a little worried about how they get all that stuff out, every night to play baseball. And that's why our negotiations are bogged down for the moment.
Well, if anybody's promotional skill can work out a solution, I'm sure it'll be yours.
Well, thanks for the vote of confidence, Biff. But I don't think I'm going to be able to work this one out. So we may have to play the first season in Central Park. But we can't charge admission there, so that'll make the franchise worthless. Also mean we can't afford professional players.
Well, in that case, I can suddenly envision a bunch of 7- and 8-year-olds playing hide-and-go-seek in Central Park under your tutelage. And it's going to take a lot of promotional skill to draw a crowd for that.
Well, now that I hear you describe it, the thing really sounds like a sports promoter's nightmare.
Well, I'm sure it will be a complete disaster, Barney, but thanks for dropping by the sports room tonight. Till next time, this is Biff Burns saying, so long, Ted.
Well, now, here's a shopping tip from the makers of Einbinder flypaper. Ladies, it's never too early to plan for your Easter celebration. So, isn't it about time now that you started shopping for some brightly colored spring flypaper to go on your Easter bonnet? As I'm sure you're aware, flies have difficulty telling the artificial fruit and flowers on ladies' hats from the real thing. You certainly don't want to be embarrassed by having insects swarm around your head as you attend services at the church of your choice on Easter Sunday. So better act now while ample supplies of yellow, orange, and pink flypaper remain for the coming spring season. But remember, the latest fashion shades are available only in genuine Einbinder flypaper, the brand you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations.
And it's time now for another visit to Garish Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our action begins, unlikable young Rodney Murchfield is still carrying out his arrangement to be held captive by Lefty Schellenbach, the town's leading kidnapper. Suddenly, Lefty spins around in the swivel chair he bought at a swap meet near the state capitol and speaks.
I guess it's time I sent a ransom note to your mother telling her where to leave the money, Rodney. Would you hand me the scissors so I can clip the message out of these newspaper headlines?
I'd be delighted to help, Lefty, but I can't reach the scissors. You have my arms tied to this chair with clothesline rope.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting that we've tried to make this look like a real kidnapping and not just a fake one that you dreamed up to chisel your old lady out of $9,800,000.
Well, I prefer not to think of it as low and conniving, Lefty. Besides, she seems to be falling for the trick anyway.
I hope so. But you know what, Rodney? It's really hard to make up an attractive kidnap note, the kind of headline type they use in newspapers these days.
I wasn't aware there'd been a change.
Oh, yeah, I remember back in '56 when I put the smash on the Mumford twins. You could still find a lot of 24-point Bodoni type in the papers then. I pasted up a real attractive threat for the Mumfords, telling how I'd mail their kids home in a jar if they didn't pay up.
Yes, I recall when that note was introduced as evidence at your trial. The district attorney commented about the attractive typeface.
Exactly. But now everything's this harsh, modern junk. No nice curlicues on the letters. Now, a woman of your mother's breeding is going to be pretty upset to get a note in ugly type like this.
Well, she'll be upset to get it, all right. I can picture her reaction to it now.
Well, as you might have guessed, Wilfred, my reaction to this ransom note is very negative.
Well, naturally, Miss Agatha, there's something about a sans serif type face that seems so cold and impersonal.
Well, that's not what upsets me, you ninny. The kidnapper is demanding almost $10 million to release Rodney unharmed.
Yes, Mum. I suppose that would be a negative factor, too. And then, making matters worse, the blackguard tied the note around a rock and tossed it through the music room window.
Well, I guess the person who's already facing the gas chamber for kidnapping figures he might as well commit petty vandalism, too.
It's true, Mom. You're a keen judge of human nature. Perhaps it's your sensitivity that gives me courage to speak out on a matter that's come to my attention.
Of course. You know, I've always been concerned about your feelings, so if you have something to say, just spit it out before I send you on your way without so much as a letter of reference.
Yes, Mom. Thank you, Mom. It's about the ransom figure, $9,800,000. That's the exact amount your auditor found overdrawn from Mr. Rodney's petty cash account at the office. I wonder what the police would say if they knew that the ransom money would be just enough to get Mr. Rodney out of his tight situation.
So, why were you wondering what I'd say, Sergeant? I've been working on the Marchfield kidnapping case ever since it broke, and the figure $9,800,000 doesn't ring a bell with me.
Well, it's the amount of ransom they've asked for, Chief. By coincidence, it's also the exact amount that Rodney seems to have embezzled from Marchfield Lead Mining.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Outside of those things, it doesn't ring a bell with me. Does it ring a bell with you?
Maybe. I suppose Rodney knew the auditors were about to find that shortage, so he made an appointment, as we already know, to have lunch with Lefty Schellenbach on the very day he disappeared.
Funny, the name Schellenbach doesn't ring a bell either.
He kidnapped the Mumford twins 30 years ago. You solved the case.
Good. At least that's one loose end we've wrapped up.
Well, not entirely, Chief. Schellenbach's been out of the slammer for a month now, and for no good reason. He has lunch with Rodney Murchfield, was then kidnapped and held for the exact amount of ransom he needs to avoid an embezzlement rap. You see what I'm driving at?
No, but if you get any leads, call me at the gas station. Rodney bought a new oil filter there on the day he disappeared, and I intend to find out the reason why.
Now, will the young squirt at the gas station knuckle under and tell all he knows? How did Lefty send a ransom note to Agatha clipped out of newspaper type when he couldn't reach the scissors? And why hasn't the broken glass in the music room ever been swept up? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear Lefty say...
Do you spell decapitated with 1K or 2?
That's next time when we return again to Garish Summit.
Now, through the courtesy of the Ashenfelder Whip Socket Company, we take you back to...
September 8, 1922. Herman L. Barchwood invents the rooftop television antenna. Bob and Ray was there.
Hey, Herman, will you cut out that racket?
Oh, good morning, Luther. I hope I wasn't disturbing you with my hammering.
Well, as a matter of fact, you were. You know, being an inventor yourself, you ought to realize how loud noise can keep a person from concentrating. I haven't gotten any work done on my latest project all morning.
Well, I'm sorry, Luther, but I'm about finished here now anyway. I was just nailing this wire down the side of the house from my new invention up on the roof there. What do you think of it?
Well, I'm not sure what to think of it, Herman. I don't know what it is. A metal pole with a lot of horizontal bars sticking out from it. What's it for, anyway?
It's a place for migratory birds to stop and rest on their way south.
Huh?
See, I've designed all those prongs sticking out to be just the right size for a bird's foot. And it's all made out of aluminum, so it won't rust. See any problems I haven't thought of?
Well, I can certainly see one. Who in thunder is going to pay good money to buy a resting station for migratory birds?
Well, I'm not sure, Luther. I've written the Audubon Society about endorsing it, and I even ran this wire down the side of the house to the living room window at their suggestion. It's a trolley for running breadcrumbs up to the roof in bad weather. But the Audubon people still haven't come through with any cash.
Well, at least your invention works, even if you never make any money out of it. That's one I can say for my project.
I forget which one of your nutty ideas you're working on now.
Well, it's not a nutty idea, Herman. After all, we've got motion pictures and radio now, so there's no reason we shouldn't be able to combine the two. I just can't get my wireless moving picture machine to work for some reason.
Well, you'd never be able to sell it anyway with a name like wireless moving picture machine. Why not call it something catchy that the public can remember? How about television?
Well, Herman, it doesn't make any difference what I call it. The thing just won't work. I got my brother transmitting pictures from across town, but all I can pick up on my receiver is a fuzzy image and a lot of snow.
Well, maybe it's the tall buildings in between that interfere with the reception.
Well, I thought of that, but what can I do? Any city big enough to support a wireless moving picture station would have tall buildings, so there's no solution to the problem. I might as well toss my equipment in the trash can and forget it.
Don't be too hasty, Luther. Suppose you had some way of receiving the pictures over the tops of the buildings.
Well, that just might do it. Say I connected my moving picture machine to that wire running up to your aluminum bird roost. That would put the receiver high enough.
Luther, for Pete's sake, don't even suggest such a thing. That might electrocute the migratory birds. And if the Audubon Society hears about it, they'll never give me their endorsement.
Yeah, I guess you're right, Herman. I shouldn't louse up your chance of success by asking you to help me. No, I'll just throw my equipment in the ash can and forget it.
Yeah, maybe that would be best, Luther. And once you get all the wires and tubes cleared out of that wooden cabinet, I'll give you $3 for it. I think Martha could use it for a planter.
And so Herman L. Botchwood's next-door neighbor threw away his wireless moving picture machine without ever trying to connect it. to Herman's aluminum bird roost. As for Herman, he died penniless after failing to get the endorsement of the Audubon Society. He had missed his fleeting chance for success on a warm autumn morning many, many years before. And what sort of a day was it? A day like all days, that alter and illuminate our times. The date?
September 8, 1922. Herman L. Barkswood invents the rooftop television antenna. Bob and Ray was there. Thank you. There's, mention my name is Sheboygan again. That reminds us that it has to be an end to all good things, and this is the end of today's Bob and Ray Public Radio Show.
And as usual, the whole thing was produced for the Radio Foundation by Larry Josephson. That's him right there. He's a man who's old enough to remember a world before Naugahyde.
And our associate producer, Marjorie Van Halderen, on the other hand, can't remember a world without Solarian floors.
Technical director was Malcolm Addy.
Sound effects provided by Al Schaefer.
Music headed by the 11 talented fingers of Paul Tappan.
Audio engineers today were Mike Moran and Pat Martin, and production assistants Diana Freed and Stuart Zagnet.
Funding in part by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund. And now this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
And Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped, self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. That's Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.